Welcome to the Liquidity Event, a show about all things personal finance with a laser focus on taxes, financial independence, and equity compensation. Hosted by AJ and Shane of Brooklyn FI, each episode will focus on a personal finance topic, some driven by news headlines and sometimes driven by listener questions. And sometimes you'll just get two money nerds rambling about what they think is interesting. Just a quick note before we get started, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax or investment advice.
Hello and welcome to the Liquidity Event. I'm your host, Shane Mason.
And I'm AJ Ayers with full teeth in her mouth this week.
We'll see how long that lasts. And this is episode 179, being recorded on March 4th, airing on March 5th, 2026. Welcome to March, AJ. Q1's almost over. You can email us your finance questions at liquidityevent@brooklynfi.com, and we will answer them live on the air. AJ, how many teeth are in the human mouth?
What's 30 something? 60? I have no idea.
We both just did some mental math. Terribly poorly.
Between 30 and 60. Sharks have over 700. Did you know that? Don't sharks have like 300 teeth or something?
And
sharks have a lot of teeth.
I got a lot of teeth. I did a tour of the American Museum of Natural History by myself. There was a docent. I forgot to send you a photo because I know how much you love a volunteer docent at a museum. And she absolutely killed it. She was like 71 years old. She was.
Those are my favorite kind of people. Why did you not give her my number? I want to hang out with her.
I got the sickest merch for anyone that goes to the Natural History Museum on the Upper West Side of New York City. The fourth floor by the dinosaurs is a secret merch hotspot. I got a sweater, a hat, and a coffee mug. Happy to support Teddy Roosevelt's.
So good. I mean,
museum.
Did you see the whale? The whale room?
Of course I've seen the whale. Of course, I've seen the whale many, many times. Yeah. That was the last stop on the tour.
You know, we talk a lot about on this podcast about like, you know, when do you feel like you're wealthy? Like what's the number? And we have a lot of Reddit questions about that. And I have to say, listeners,
how is the whale relevant to this?
I'm getting there. Just relax. The moment I felt wealthy was when I was invited to a gala last year in the whale room. I was like, oh, you guys, I have made it. I got invited to a fancy party in the whale room. I used to see this on TV. Remember that movie, The Squid and the Whale, from our teenage years?
Noah Baumbach.
So I was like, oh, I made it. So that's how I measure wealth, folks. Getting invited to dine under a skeleton of a prehistoric, was it a giant blue whale?
It's a giant blue whale, the largest animal to have ever existed, apparently. And it is hanging from the ceiling, even though that whale is like 60 tons or something. It's hanging from the ceiling, and they check on it routinely because there's always people underneath.
Just to make sure, because there's always people going to galas, you know.
Any of our New York listeners, they have brought back a night in the museum. You can sleep under the whale. It was done because of COVID. Unfortunately, you have to have a child, so I'm thinking about having a kid just
to get your edge, just to be a plus one.
Yes. There's a lot worse reasons to have a child, AJ.
I 100% agree. I mean, the only reason that I wanted to have kids is so I could read them Harry Potter. Truly, that is the only reason. All right, what are we doing here today, Mr. Host?
Well, we have 25 more minutes to continue talking about museums and
fantastic.
Now, on this week's episode of the podcast, we're going to talk a lot about AI. We have 4 articles about AI, and then we're going to talk about organ donorship. Okay, and then we have a Reddit question for us here at the end. We're going to start off the conversation with the 2028 global intelligence crisis, the Settrini Report, which is very long and had a lot of like a scenario about where AI could be coming from or could be going. It's not a prediction, it's just a scenario that could happen. It is essentially a creative writing exercise that was very compelling and moved the markets. We're going to talk about the Bleak Research Report, essentially the reporting from Wall Street on that report that came out. The report came out over the weekend and the markets moved on Monday. There was a retreat from AI stocks and a movement into AI safe stocks in the utilities and the consumer staples space. Jack Dorsey laid off 4,000 employees at Block. I almost said Stripe. Because some people say it's AI.
To say Square,
right.
Square,
Stripe, Block. What are these companies? They are, some say it is because of AI. Some say it is a clawback of all the jobs that they added during COVID, that they just stayed overpopulated or overhired during COVID, and they needed to get back to a profitability standpoint. Elon Musk actually put a power plant to help power AI in my hometown
Oh my God, I
that
cannot wait to talk about this.
I talked I talked I cried when I read this actually. So we're going to
Oh
talk
no.
about this. It's right next to the little league football
Mm,
stadium that I grew up playing football in. So I
mm,
looked at where it was on the map and I just started crying. It was really a
mm.
touching moment. So we'll talk about that a bit later. And then finally, should families of organ donors be compensated? The indicator from Planet Money. AJ, I'm curious on your take on this
Oh,
later.
you
I
know I
didn't
have a
know.
take on death.
I saw this article come in
You
and I'm
know
like,
I'm
wait,
all about this.
do we have no incentives for organ ownership at all in this country? Right.
Zero. None.
Surprise,
Yep.
surprise.
Of
And
course.
finally, somebody is asking about whether or not they should pay a 1.25% fee on $10 million of liquid net worth. Our financial advisor listeners will be curious about that Reddit question. So, AJ, anything you want to say before we hop into the Settrini article on an AI vision for the future?
No, let's hop right into it. And I just want to start out by shouting out Substack because we're going to talk
Yep.
about this piece. We're going to talk about what happened in the markets. We're going to talk about who wrote it and what the reactions were. But really, I saw this as a win for creative writing on a independent platform.
Yeah.
Substack is a publishing platform. For those who don't know, it's basically a newsletter platform, but it sort of looks like a website. It's sort of like the original Blogger. It's basically a blog. That's what it is. Let's not let's not inflate its value. It's a blog, but it is this really interesting community. So Settrini
But
is
it
a
has,
research company.
not to
What's
cut you
that?
off, but it also has, I didn't know this until you got me to read your post. There's also a Twitter aspect
There is, yes. So
of
there's Substack
Substack that is a
notes.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, right now it's my favorite place on the internet, and it's where you can read really neat pieces of thought like this Settrini research piece that came out. I think it was at this point 2 weeks ago. We're a little behind on this, folks.
Yeah.
And it basically went viral. It has like 4 million views or something. And Settrini Research, it's funny because I actually subscribed to them before because I was like, oh, why does this random investment research firm have so many thousands of followers? Well, it's because a couple years ago, I think it was 2023, they published this really interesting investment research piece about GLP-1s and what that's going to do to the economy and how it's going to save airlines tons of money. This was the investment firm that sort of started that debate. So obviously there's a bunch of smart researchers looking at these kind of macro issues and well, they're micro, they're macro. I don't know. I listened to an interview with the founder today to prepare for this podcast, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm just hiring really smart people to look at trends, and that's what I'm going to keep
Oh,
doing." So I loved that this came out as a Substack publisher myself. You can find my newsletter, Money Changes Everything, on Substack. I do not have as many followers as Settrini Research, but you could be the next one.
nor as many employees.
Nor as many
No.
employees.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
content is, but my content is as equally as Doomsday-y, I will say.
Oh,
So
all
anyway,
right.
I wanted to open this discussion chain, and I know you have a lot to say on this, with the idea that yes, this piece was so compelling in its use of literal fiction. It was literally, hey, let's imagine a scenario 2.5 years from now where AI has infiltrated the markets a lot faster. It has made everyone a lot more efficient. It has eliminated a lot of jobs. Let's imagine what that would look like in terms of numbers and how much the stock market is off its 2026 peak. All of that. And people went, holy shit, wow, this is scary. This is a scenario. My charts have said this. My quants have told me this is a possibility, but I've never actually thought about what it could mean for the economy and what it could mean for people and companies. So it was very compelling. And we actually saw a drop in the markets. Now, we saw a 1% drop in the S&P 500, right? We're not talking about a 15% fall off, right? There were some indications that tech stocks had a little bit of pullback. There was a weird bump in a few of the singular companies that he mentioned in the article. And actually the guy who wrote it, I was listening to this interview this morning and he was like, had I known that 3 million people were going to read this, I would not have mentioned individual stocks because it did move the market. You can actually see those few stocks that he mentioned move up and down. So long way of saying, I think this is a win for independent thought and the market actually reacting to smart people, which is rare to see these days. What are your thoughts?
Indeed, yeah. Well, full disclosure, I have like 6 Claude Code terminals running right now in the background on my own computer. So it is very fun to read this article. Like, just in case anyone hasn't read it, I will give a 2-minute rundown on what the article says.
Please.
Essentially,
Yeah.
it's written in the past tense and it imagines what happened over the past 2 years, and it goes chronologically from 2026 forward. And essentially says because there's so much productivity from these bots spinning up additional companies or making all employees of companies a lot more productive, the S&P hits 8,000. Right now, the S&P is sitting around 6,200. 6,800. It's flat year to date, but over the last year, it's up 18%. The Dow's at 48,000, not quite 50,000 as Pam Bondi. So we're not going to do that. So everyone gets more productive, driven entirely by AI euphoria. There's all this ghost GDP, however, in that AI can increase GDP, but actual doesn't spend anything. So there's this big layoff of people because we're spending 400,000 tokens per day. All these agents are creating productivity, which drives down the requirement for human beings to do it. There's all kinds of like side cases, and they analyze a lot of businesses that get disrupted, which is really fun. Real estate commissions in major metros collapsed by 2.5 to 3% because AI agents are going out and doing the buying and the selling. They also start routing around the 2 to 3% interchange fee by Visa and MasterCard and Amex. And so they're using Solana and Ethereum to just pay fractions of a penny on all transactions. This is a tax on businesses that you and I would love to reduce. I think you and I spend over 50K per year on these fees.
Yep.
Labor share of GDP falls from 65% down to 56% and then down to 46%. It keeps going down and down and down. The difference that they highlight in this article is that when there are major layoffs, historically, it's usually blue collar workers that experience big layoffs, like in the construction industry in 2008. In this scenario, most of the layoffs are white collar workers who have a over-index amount of the spending in the economy. So top 10% of earners now account for more than 50% of all consumer spending. If they lose their jobs, discretionary spending, which makes up over 70% of GDP in America, it takes a massive hit. And so it really ends on a gut punch, with it's a large permanent reduction in the labor force. And because a Claude agent can do the work of a $180,000 product manager for $200 a month with the max plan, that just reverberates throughout the entire economy. Travel agents, white collar work is destroyed. So now, with that said, the $200 a month plan is a 95% subsidy. So think about Uber in 2015. They were getting market share and they were pushing down the prices.
You could take an Uber from Williamsburg to Prospect Park for like $8, and now that would cost you $35-$40.
I went to set up as a hobby over the weekend. I set up the OpenClaw, the robot that just runs in the background. Is supposed to be your assistant. You cannot use the max plan with that because it's a terms of use violation because you're essentially it's like if you were using my max plan, AJ, you were logging in for me. It's another user. So the bot would. That's not what its intent is for, and they don't expect you to max it out every month. It would be like taking 100, like everybody was on the same Uber plan or whatever. So so they actually ban you. So if you actually use Claude's Opus latest model full time, it is exceptionally expensive. All this, very expensive. Yeah. So all this fear about it's being able to be, it's super cheap. It is now because we're burning VC's money right now. But once they get enough market share and turn a corner, if they ever even do turn a corner, then it will not be as inexpensive as we hear. So that is something to keep in mind when we think about the disruption that's coming down the pipeline from these models.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I think, have we covered this? Because I have a fun segue if we want to move on.
I was going to say really 20 minutes on AI, AJ, this morning. So doomer or positive. I have a positive spin coming up for.
Well, here's let me start with the doom though. I mean, you're talking about disruption. Like, yeah, it's going to be expensive in terms of dollars, but it's also going to be expensive in terms of infrastructure. It costs a lot of power to run this revolution, right? And we had this article about your hometown of South Haven, Mississippi, which I had the pleasure of visiting around this time last year because I lost a bet and Shane sent me to his hometown in the middle of a fucking snowstorm. So unfortunately, I did not get to see the adorable Little League field where you played because it was covered in snow. And I spent an entire weekend in a Homewood Suites that cost me $69 a night. That was really fun experience for me.
Anyone that's been to the South during a snowstorm knows everything is shut down. It is It is
The
a
Chipotle
siesta.
was closed.
It's a southern siesta. People don't go outside. Literally a quarter
The
of an inch of
Chipotle was
snow.
the
Mi-
Chipotle was closed.
Mississippians cannot handle
All
it. We're
right.
not built for it.
Tell me about my only hot take from this article. I want to hear what you have to say about it. Is that I was looking at, there's like this. It's devastating, right? There's this 75-year-old man who's like, I've lived on this street for my whole life. I don't, I wanted to die here, but there's these giant wind turbines that sound like a jet engine down. I have to leave, and I can't sell my house because no one wants to buy it. And there's this sort of like photo of him like holding his hand, and he looks very like upset. And you know what? I feel like your hometown, Shane, really could have benefited from a Jewish community because Jews are really good complainers. And I feel I was just like imagining this guy being like, "Oy vey, like I'm all night and then I'm schwitzing and you have these wind turbines." But actually his accent would be more Southern, which you can do. I'm not going to attempt a Southern accent. So my big takeaway is we need more more New York Jews in South Haven, Mississippi. But tell me about your take on this as a South Haven native.
Yeah, we sure do. I remember the first Jew that I met, AJ. I was in high school, and I was like, "What? Y'all
You're
don't?"
like, where's your horns in your tail?
No. I didn't know about any. There was no anti-Semitism at all. I just never literally heard of them. Like I'd heard of them, but I'd never like met one. And I went to a private school for 2 years. That's a whole different story. And I went from Mississippi public schools to a Memphis private school for a little while, and there was a Jewish kid who was a valedictorian, unsurprisingly. And and I was like, "Y'all don't think Jesus like was the guy?" And they was like, "No." I was like,
Nah.
"Wow, all right. Interesting." Just like never crossed my mind. So that's a
Never crossed your mind? Get it?
oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just like, didn't teach that in Mississippi public school, so or like
The
didn't
Jews.
didn't come up. And I've always
I
loved
don't
the
think
Jews.
they
I've
are
never
these days either.
never understood the anti-Semitism. Anyway, with that
Yeah.
said, yes, they did put a power plant in. My sister lives in Memphis, which is just over the border. South Haven is on the border, so I think Mississippi is a pro-business state, which means it's like an anti-education state and an anti-government state. And I talked to my friends about this, and this article says that essentially they kind of warned the populace that there was going to be a new, there were dollar bills coming in, there was going to be jobs, and they put this power plant in, and your average Mississippian is like, that's like a blue-collar job. Right? What they did not tell them was that it was going to sound like jet engines were going off full time. You now live next to an airport, but the airplanes don't come every 90 seconds. It's full time.
All the time.
All the time. So yeah, this is right by my high school, and it's right by, which was a rougher part of town in the Delta. And yeah, I looked at the map of where it is, and it's right next to this beautiful Cherry Valley baseball and football field where I grew up, and I know that neighborhood very well. It's definitely lower middle class, and I feel terrible for these people in this article. And there's a guy in this shirt, wearing a shirt at this community meeting, and it's too late. It's already built. And he's got a shirt on that says not all money is good money. And it's too late, brother. Like people don't show up to the community meetings because they're anti-government, and before you know it, your Republican mayor has put a power plant right next to your house. And Elon is not worried about, he's got investor worries to handle, not, a few hundred people in a small town that don't traditionally show up to protest. So yeah, it was sad. Feel bad about it. This is the future. And the other terrible thing is like there's not a lot of jobs being created with these power plants and with these AI data centers and these warehouses.
It's construction jobs to build them, right? It's there's going to be some jobs to get them off the ground, but it doesn't take many people to run them, right? And I imagine the skill set needed to fix them if they break is highly specialized, and I imagine that's not a local team. That's probably someone you're bringing in. So yeah, there's sort of this uptick. There's this big promise. I assume big tax breaks for the city and the state. That's great for innovation. And I'm sure there's some government dollars that are available. But the jobs don't stick around, unfortunately. And it sounds like the town is becoming literally unlivable.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a big town, and it's a small corner of that. At one point, that county was the fastest growing county in America, like when I moved there. So it's become big, and it's like kind of crested. And I think they're continuing to look for additional. Anyway, like I think one of the main themes to take away, AJ, that I'm seeing with this AI boom is that AI is really great for certain people in the economy, and that is highly skilled worker or really entrepreneurs is what I would sum it up for, because it increases your amount. Like I said, I've got 4 Claudes going. right now. Not like actively doing things, but waiting for me to prompt them to help me. I'm building a couple things that have always bothered me. I know you're building a couple things that have always bothered you. That you want to see in the market, and I've seen we don't have it as an article, but there is a massive uptick in Git commits, aka code that's been
Mhm.
pushed up into GitHub, which means that is often being deployed out into B2B SaaS or increases in any type of software. Really, there's a massive increase in what's being pushed up since November of 2025, which a lot of people consider the tipping point for AI coding, when Opus 4.5 and 4.6, I think it was 4.6 was released, and Codex 5.3 around that same time, because they're just a lot more accurate and they're a lot more thoughtful, and it's right most of the time, and it hallucinates a lot less. So I'm
Mhm.
building a CE tracker, which has been really fun. You can feel like Zeus when like you have an idea and boom, if you know how to
Yep.
prompt it and you know how to use these tools, it
It just
becomes a
makes it
thing fairly
so
quickly.
cool.
It's pretty crazy. And the other thing I was walking around thinking about what to talk about on the podcast this morning, and it really like reminded me. I've been reading a lot of history lately. You're gonna like this take. It reminds me of the Chinese building the railroads in the
Mm.
1850s, in that
Hmm.
after they were done building the railroads, they weren't allowed to get jobs.
Yep.
They were not employable. So what they
Right, because of
did,
the Chinese Exclusion Act, which literally forbade them from contributing to the economy in any meaningful way and using any services.
so what do? They created companies. If they were
Yes, they
unemployed, so
started restaurants.
they started restaurants and laundromats. And that's why there
Yep.
is a Chinese restaurant in every town in America. So it just reminds
Yep.
me of this idea that like I think there's going to be a massive boom in people that have had ideas that want to see them come to fruition. And so they're not
Sure.
obviously all going to work out, but even if 20% of them work out, that is going to be a positive thing, I think, in terms of solving problems that people have. One last thing, AJ, that I will say is that I know I've been going on for a long time here, but with the decreasing size of a population in the world, think about Japan, the amount of GDP that we can squeeze out of fewer human beings as we convert to a not first class, but advanced societies that survive on services instead of construction, etc. That is a what could
Manufacturing.
go
Yep.
right thing about this. Like we can go further with fewer people. All right, sorry. That's enough from me.
All right, I have one
Takes.
more. Yeah, I heard this. I forget where that. This is probably the year that we'll see our first single founder, zero employee unicorn company. You
There
know,
we are.
just
Yeah.
some guy or girl sitting in their room, running a bunch of
Yeah.
scripts and just being like, ah, I made a product, I made it in my bedroom. I don't have a co-founder, I don't have any technical support, I don't need to hire any engineers. I've got a coding background and I have a really good idea. And I can push it out and I can start charging for it. And someone may value my company at $1 billion. And I fully believe in that thesis that we will see that by the end of this year. Maybe not that extreme where it's one person, but you can go, like you said, a lot further with much fewer dollars. Yeah, I keep coming back to this idea, Shane, that I am very grateful for the experience that you and I have had over the past decade of building a company, because there are so many lessons you learn, insurance, copyright, parking the right domain name. Like there's just all this stupid admin shit that you got to get through. And I'm excited for this next wave of innovation that, yeah, if I have an idea for how I can fix, my calendar, I can basically code it up myself now and just launch it. And I know all the other stupid intricacies of how to run a business. So I do
Yeah.
I have this. Yeah, I mean the Settrini piece was pretty doomsday, but I don't know. I remain an optimist. I still feel a lot of optimism in the world. What else you got for us?
Yeah. No, I mean, I just reviewed my notes again, and I did feel terrible for this like India's IT service sector. Do you remember that part? Where like
Yeah,
it's a $200
not
billion
good.
dollar. That's going to be a tough one. All right, let's move off the doomsday stuff. Or optimism, pessimism about AI. I mean, you're absolutely right. I've with all these little B2B SaaS companies, I've been looking for finding a domain name takes a whole
Can't
day
do it.
or 2 days. Try doing that 4 or 5 times. But with a bot, you can say, go look at all of these, like come up with
Yeah.
ideas, go make sure they're all available, make sure the Twitter handle is available, the GitHub repo is available, the Instagram is available. That's
I
like
just
I
went through that
100% agree.
for
That admin shit is terrible.
I just went through that for my bookstore, Myrtle Earth, which is coming soon to Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn. Fantasy and sci-fi and coffee. Accepting investors now, folks.
I have a feeling I'll be on the cap table for
You
for
will
Myrtle
most
Alert.
certainly be on the cap table. I already put you down for 50 grand. Don't worry about it, bud.
All right. Speaking of compensation, let's talk
Oh
about
my
this
God.
Planet
I've
Money
been waiting. I've just
article.
been
All right.
rolling my eyes
Sorry.
waiting for it to get to
Yeah, no, I know. We still got 5 minutes. You're good to go. So, this Planet Money article is essentially a listen. It's a 9-minute listen, and the article is about how Americans don't get compensated for organ donor. I know in other countries there's both penalties and bonuses for contributing or not contributing to the organ donor list. I believe if you do not consider yourself an organ donor in like Norway or something, then you are yourself are not available to receive organs, which is a
Mhm.
fantastic incentive. I wish we had more government
I wish we
incentives.
had that. That makes so much sense. Like,
Yeah,
but this is this stupid manufactured idea that like I am more important than my neighbor and I am better than them. It's like that's fine, but you gotta like
I think it's a
you don't get
reflection of
your
our
yeah
individualism
yeah
in the United States versus the
yep
rest of the world being a
yep
collectivist society or more collectivist than we are for sure.
yep
Also,
yeah.
our
I mean,
Christian nature and feeling like something related to our soul will get put into another. Sorry, sorry, I can't. Mississippi Public
okay.
Schools.
Speaking of
do
which,
do your bit. Do your bit.
okay, all right. No. Yes, as someone who did not go to Mississippi public schools and grew up with literature and film as my education,
That's just
I
the
have two
devil
recommend.
trying to tell you that he
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
exist. The greatest lie the devil ever told you is he didn't exist in the first place.
All right, two recommendations. One, a film called Return to Me, David Duchovny, Minnie Driver, and Bonnie Hunt. It is a fantastic story about what happens with organ donation and how it impacts the lives of some beautiful people. Have you read Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro?
First 3 chapters, yes.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, another fantastic organ donation fiction. Speaking of science fiction, 100,000 people are on the organ transplant waiting list, and 5,000 of those people die every year waiting for an organ. And I don't have the statistics here, but I think a lot of those are children, by the way. I think most of the people who end up not getting a match are children because they're, for whatever reason, they have these rare blood types or whatever. I am an organ donor. Well, wait, I want to get into something, but this article is fascinating because it's not about the morality of organ donation. It's about that it's actually hard to donate organs. So even if you are a donor and on your driver's license it says so and you're in a horrible accident and there's no hope for you and you've got a perfect match heart for a kid in South Haven, Mississippi,
Yeah.
it's going to cost you a lot of money to get it there. So it's not just this like, oh, I'm altruistic and you know, if I don't need it, I want someone to have a life that they were not going to have before. If you do that, it's going to cost you money for your funeral. It's going to cost you money to transport it. Like it's just this messy, complicated, bureaucratic system. Welcome to healthcare in America, folks. Ugh, I hate this. Sorry, do you have a take?
Just was thinking about the horrible Sam Altman take. Like, obviously, he's in rooms with very smart people that don't exist, that don't drink at parties and test their takes out on people. Do you remember when he said that how expensive it, like there were people were complaining about how expensive it is to train AI, and he was like, yeah, but it takes a human being like 24 years to get productive. It's like, dog, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you? That was a Zuckerberg comment. Like, get it
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah,
then it
yeah.
like, and but this just reminds me of this because it's like these children, the amount we've spent on. I'm sorry, like I was just taking like an accounting of the value of a human life, and I don't know what it is. And obviously, someone that's 20 years old is on paper more valuable than someone that's 95 years old because of the product, like the human capital that they have built
But
into
it's
them.
so
But yet these
interesting. But we
children,
talked about
yeah,
this. But last week when we talked about this, how the government spends $29,000 on people over 65 and less than $1,000 on infants. Like that's crazy.
apparently
That is a
120 million dollars on an F-15 per
right.
F-15 that went
There
down
you go.
last. Yeah.
So this article is specifically about basically an economist proposing this idea that you would reimburse organ donor families for funeral expenses and related cost, and it'd be capped at $6,000 to $8,000. This is not like hundreds of thousands of dollars of a payout, and like I feel like there's this misconception that was probably started by some lawyer in the 80s that if you're an organ donor, like the surgeon is gonna not try to save your life because you're a donor and they want the heart for like the kid down the hallway. Like that doesn't happen. Like you've watched too much ER and too much Grey's Anatomy. Like it is a very scientific decision, and doctors will adhere to the standard of care to try to save your life. And when they have exhausted all options, they will look at your driver's license and go, oh, are they a donor or not? It's kind of black and white. So I think there's a lot of stigma, for good reason, around organ donation, and you should read Never Let Me Go because it is about harvesting organs and how that can be bad in the future.
So if you believe in the afterlife, just get it over with and go to heaven and let somebody enjoy heaven, enjoy the earth. Like let's keep it moving.
So I was curious about not just organ donation, but entire body donation and what it would look like to donate my body to science. As my husband says, I have a very interesting system that should be studied. So, mostly related to the circulation and the coldness of my feet, which I think a lot of women suffer from. So I looked into it, and there's a couple for-profit companies where you can sign up. One is called is it Science Cure? No, I lost my tab here. Anyway, we'll have an update on that. But it turns out that the best way to actually donate your body to science is to hook up with an established research institution. So for me in New York, I looked up and it said that Columbia University has a whole body corpus, your entire body donation program. So I'm going to sign up for that. And then I'm going to do one of these for-profit companies as a backup, just in case they don't want my body for whatever reason, or potentially if I die overseas or in a different state. So I will look into that and have an update for you. Probably not by next week. I don't think I can get that paperwork together to donate my body to science in a week.
Yeah, let us know how that goes. It's very, I as someone that has continuously failed to execute my will, there's still a change available for me to update this bad boy. I should say that I need to make some changes. Got to get that trust set up. So let me know.
Yeah, I mean this whole idea of paying people for body parts and plasma and egg donation and sperm donation, like every other aspect of the economy has some sort of financial incentive. And the fact that you are completely barred from paying for it because we have this National Organ Transplant Act from 1984, an ominous year, that you're just not allowed to do it. This was a pretty compelling case for me to have some organ donation compensation reform.
I'm into it. I'm into a lot of different types of reform. Okay. AJ, do you want to do the $1.5 million contribution, the percentage fee, the Reddit question, or should we save it for next week? Yes. All right. Cool.
We could save it for next
we'll go a little long
week.
today. This is an easy one. This rich people personal finance Reddit post from Complete Ears 7620, which seems like a made up. I don't get offered any services other than credit lines. I'm paying 1.25% fee on a $10 million liquid portfolio. I have to call the manager. This is so embarrassing. I have to call the manager to rebalance, find the ETFs, and so on. I don't get meetings to talk about long-term strategy, tax efficiency, or estate planning. I feel like this is a rage bait post. Firstly, am I paying too much? Secondly, if I go those services with those, if I get those services, would others charge more? Finally, should I find a fiduciary, bro?
No, honestly, a financial advisor wrote this, by the way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, 100%.
For sure, a fiduciary. Yeah, I think you actually wrote this, or one of our friends probably wrote this to get us to talk about this.
It's a plant post.
Yeah, if you're paying sounds like this is a bank situation. If you're paying a bank like Bank of America, aka Merrill Lynch, to manage your portfolio for 1.25%, yeah, you're getting no tax advice, no investment advice, no other services beyond rebalancing your portfolio. It sounds like you have a shitty manager. So yeah, I would probably move on. And most financial advisors that I know that are fiduciaries and fee only on $10 million would probably charge you a blended fee of about 0.5%-ish, maybe a little bit more, which seems pretty affordable if you've got $10 million and you're getting estate planning, tax planning, and all the other things that are going to add more value to your portfolio and will protect you from the worst value killer in your portfolio, which is you yourself, which is messing around with it and thinking that you know better than the markets, as we saw this past week. Lots of opportunities to make some user errors, let's call them, in stock trading over the past 2 weeks. You know what's cool, Shane?
What's that?
We didn't mention that we went to war in Iran. That happened over the weekend.
Yep.
And the markets on Monday, all the financial advisor community, we were all sort of like holding our breath Sunday night and Monday as the markets opened, and wasn't a huge reaction. And we were sort of chatting with some of our planners, and who did any clients reach out over the weekend? Like, was anyone freaked out? And the answer was no. Our clients did not reach out over the weekend. So I continue to be very proud of our clients and their forward-thinking, long-term vision of growing their net worth and not just thinking about it as a week-long or day-long problem.
Right on. Yeah, we have good smart clients, and I'm glad you brought up the Iranian thing because I did want to take a moment to recognize U.S. service members Cody, Amor, Tijans, and Cork who lost their lives in Kuwait over on March 1st. So I appreciate
Thank you
that.
for
Say
that.
what you will about the war and the administration. These people are just trying to serve the country, and I just want to take a moment for them. So not to end on a low
Thank you for
note.
that.
Yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
thank you for your service.
yeah. To our listeners, anything else, AJ, you wanted to touch on before we close out today? Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Email us your financial problems at liquidityevent@brooklynify.com. And finally, you Stans can leave us a review if you want to be weird about it. Thank you, guys.
Later.